Hello everybody. So I read some interesting thoughts from John Carmack. It was about AI and how it trains on open source software that you have released. There are some people that are upset that AI companies for free are scraping source code from open source software and is training their models on that for free without compensation. And I think John Carmack shared some interesting thoughts that I want to share. And if you're not familiar with John Carmack, he's a well-known software developer. He made Wolfenstein, Doom and Quake. And then later he worked on Oculus as their CTO. And he got a question on X. Given your stance on software patents, how do you feel about AI? Is it stealing for it to learn from code you have produced over the years? And then John Carmack responded, it is absurd to have a problem with AI learning from code you have open sourced. If GitHub trained models on the contents of your private repos, that would be a violation. And then somebody else here wrote, genuinely devastating take to see from someone who popularized the GPL across so many communities, fails to appreciate the social and cultural importance of the license. But John Carmack responded, I know there is some overlap between open source and anti-AI activists, but I have a hard time reconciling it. My million-plus open source line of code were always intended as a gift to the world. Yes, I would make arguments about how it would strengthen our communities and the GPL would prevent outright exploitation by our competitors, but those were to ally fears of my partners to allow me to make the gift. AI training on the code magnifies the value of the gift. I am enthusiastic about it. Some people do look at open source as a tool for social change, career advancement or reputation building, but those are all downstream of the gift. And this is what I also feel, and I also feel the same about like making videos or writing blog posts or something. Some people are very discouraged nowadays because AI is scraping all their data and training on their blog posts and tutorials and giving away the information through ChatGPT and Claude and whatever. But I feel like the opposite almost, that I think it's even more fun now to create content on the internet and then be part of all this like learning and knowing that models are like reading my content and gaining knowledge from that, and the knowledge that I put out, it will spread even more since AIs are being trained on that, and in some sense like it becomes part of their knowledge and that gets spread out. So I really don't see the problem with AIs like reading my text that I've written online or something like that. And then it was some other guy who you might know, DHH. He is known for having created the Ruby on Rails framework. Here is an older picture of him, but if we go back here to 𝗘𝗺𝗓 and look at some pictures, and this is what he looks like. So he wrote, couldn't agree more, but that's also why GPL never made much sense to me. It clashes with the idea of open source gift exchange. And then he links to a blog post that I think is good. This is something DHH wrote on his blog some time ago, the open source gift exchange. He writes, I love writing and sharing code as open source, but it's not an abstract act of pure altruism. The first recipients of these programming gifts are almost always myself and my company. It's an intentionally selfish drive first, then the broader benefit second. But ironically, this is what has made my participation in the gift exchange of open source sustainable for 20 years and counting, putting my own mask on first so I can keep helping others. So this Ruby on Rails framework that he made, and that's what I use at his company. And then he has made it open source and given it to other people, so or other people can benefit as well. But he made it for himself in the first place. Contrast this perspective to the resentment I occasionally see from open source developers who feel shortchanged by the exchange. People who get sucked in by the ideal of pure altruism and pursue it, but are then disappointed by what they perceive as a lack of reciprocity after a while. This has always seemed like a contradiction in terms to me, to expect specific forms of reciprocity from acts of altruism. Yeah, so he thinks it's a bit weird that people give away source code and then expect things in return. There's absolutely nothing wrong with developing software in commercial terms and to expect to be paid for your work. I've built a business and a career and a fortune on that premise. But the terms of that exchange are better spelled out explicitly. Like, I will operate a project management system for you and you will pay me between $15 and $299 per month for that service. If you pay on time, I will do my best to operate and evolve the system. That is our contract. Yeah, so if you make a software and expect to be paid for it, then charge for the software. Don't make it open source and then be upset when people don't give you money for it, when you're giving it away for free. And then you have expectations of getting paid even though you made it open source and gave it away for free. The terms of our commercial reciprocity when it comes to open source are usually far more vague and thus open to illusions of agreement. Then suddenly one party thinks they are owed more than the other party believe they are due. The natural and predictable outcome of such lack of clarity is resentment. The same is funnily enough true from the other end of the equation too. Users of open source cultivating their own resentment because they mistake the relationship they have with the maintainers for a commercial one, and thus expect a standard of customer service they have been used to with commercial vendors. I like to call this specific affliction 𝗦𝗶𝗴. Yeah, weird word. And here he talks about the expectations that users have and that they get this gift of open source software and then they expect things in return, or like to get the support for what they got for free. So people gave away for free some software and you took it, but then you start to expect that they will maintain it and give support for free. So like on both ends there are a bit wrong expectations. That's why the gift metaphor is so helpful to settle expectations on both ends on exchange. If you are a recipient of a gift, one offered with no strings attached, you're not entitled to much beyond the freedom of choice of whether to accept it or not. And if you're the giver of a gift, you will be foolish to expect specific reciprocity in return. Yeah, so if you see open source as a gift exchange, as he puts it, then it makes more sense like what you would expect from that. If you give away software as a gift, then you cannot expect anything in return. And then if you receive a software and you take it and you use it, and you cannot start to expect things to like support or more than that. The open source gift exchange has never been busier. The primary crisis, if there is one, is mismatched expectations between givers and receivers, solvable by a change in perspective. Give it a try. I think this is very true, and I also, like I said, agree very much with John Carmack and what he wrote here. I think it's great that John Carmack has given away software for free. Like he says, my million+ open source lines of codes were always intended as a gift to the world. It's not many people who do that and give away their software for free so other people can learn from it. And as he said, it's just great that the AI can train on that and magnify the value of the gift, so even more can get the value of it. So indirectly, when you ask ChatGPT, it has been trained on like Doom and Quake source code, and then like that knowledge is part of what like ChatGPT is telling you. That was everything for today. Please share in the comments what you think about this with open source and gift sharing. What are your beliefs? And we will see each other another time. Bye bye.